They say the smell of coffee triggers memories. For me, it always drags me back to Virginia. Every single morning she'd brew it slow, just like she taught me. Even now, 10 years after she passed, I still make it the same way. Grind the beans fresh, pour the water just right, no shortcuts. My hands don't work the way they used to. At 71, the joints ache worse when the Arkansas humidity creeps in, like today. North Little Rock was still half asleep as I stood in my apartment over the restaurant, looking out the kitchen window at the fog rolling over the river. The same view I've stared at every morning since Virginia died. That restaurant, Old Wharf, is my life. 26 years ago, everyone said I was crazy, opening a fine dining place in an industrial dump. But Virginia believed in me. She stood by my side when no one else would. I didn't open that place to get rich. I opened it to prove I could build something out of nothing, and we did, piece by piece, brick by brick. My apartment above the place ain't much, but it's mine. Merritt, my daughter, once called it pathetic, said an old man shouldn't be living above a diner. She had no clue that that diner is one of the most successful restaurants in town. And I never bothered correcting her. Why? Because I wanted to see how she'd treat me when she thought I had nothing. I don't play games, but I do observe. Merritt's only shown up twice in 5 years, and only when she needed cash. She never asked how I was doing, never cared to learn what the Old Wharf had become. If she ever bothered, she'd know about Rowan, my chef and deputy. He's been with me 9 years. He was just some kid with passion when he started. Now he runs the kitchen better than I ever did. I think of him like the son I never had. Virginia would have loved him. He calls me Mr. A, still respects me like the old man who taught him how to break down a whole duck in 10 minutes flat. By the time I went downstairs, Rowan was already at the back entrance. "Morning, Mr. A," he called out, already unpacking supplies. "Rowan, you're too early," I grumbled, trying to hide the smile on my face. "Big group tonight. Wanted to double-check inventory. He's got hustle. That kid reminds me of me when I was 30 and thought the world could be conquered with butter and ambition. Most days I let him run the kitchen, but today I felt like being on the floor, something in the air. Maybe it was the call from Merritt. She called me yesterday, first time in months. Not for me, not because she missed her father, no. It was because Ayla, my granddaughter, was turning 23. They were having a birthday dinner, not a celebration, not a family gathering, a dinner. Her words were sharp, cold. "She asked you to come," she'd said, like it was some favor she was being forced to grant. "Not we want you there, not we miss you, just a formality. That's what I've become to her, an obligation." But I said yes anyway. Virginia made me promise on her deathbed. "Don't leave them behind, Richard. They're our blood." I keep that promise, even if it breaks me a little more each time. So I got dressed, old tweed jacket, ironed shirt, same pair of shoes I wore to Virginia's funeral. Walked into the restaurant like I owned it. Because I do. The Old Wharf is my legacy. It's the only place I feel respected anymore. Staff nod at me like I'm someone. Customers smile and shake my hand. They don't know I'm the owner. I never tell them. I like it that way. Today I serve. Tomorrow I'll sit at a table in my daughter's house like a poor old man who should be grateful just to be invited. But I'm not poor, and I've never been more ready. The morning passed in a blur of deliveries, staff check-ins, and my usual inspection rounds. But my mind wasn't on the restaurant today. It was stuck on Merritt's voice, flat, rehearsed, like she was reading off a script. "Just don't be late like last time." Like I was some elderly burden who couldn't manage a clock. She didn't even realize I left early that day on purpose. The previous party they invited me to? I stood by the wall the whole time, ignored like a coat rack. I slipped out before the cake. Nobody noticed, but I still said yes this time. Not for Merritt, for Ayla. I hadn't been part of her graduation. Merritt said there weren't enough seats and they'd already invited Fletcher's parents. That was the first time I truly understood my place in their world. Grandfather by blood, outsider by status. Funny how they never asked who helped cover Ayla's tuition. They just assumed it was Fletcher's connections. The truth? I paid half through a trust fund anonymously. Virginia and I had planned that years ago. We didn't want Ayla saddled with debt. We wanted her to start fresh. So when Merritt called, pretending like her invitation was some grand gesture, I kept my voice steady and said thank you. Then I pulled out the small velvet box from my desk drawer. Inside it sat an antique silver brooch shaped like a lily, Virginia's favorite flower. Her grandmother gave it to her, and Virginia always said it should go to Ayla one day. Merritt never wanted it. Old junk, she'd called it once. But Ayla, maybe she'd understand. Maybe she'd feel the weight of it the way it was meant to be felt. Thursday came faster than I expected. I closed up early, told Rowan he had the reins for the night. He didn't ask questions, just nodded. You need anything, you call, he said. That kid's got heart. More family than Merritt's been in a decade. I drove to Merritt and Fletcher's house in my old Toyota, parked it between their Lexus and some flashy sports car. House looked like something out of a real estate catalog. Columns, fresh landscaping, a front door wider than most apartments. I didn't feel out of place. I just felt invisible. Ayla opened the door. She looked radiant, sophisticated. But her smile when she saw me? That was real. For a second I saw Virginia in her face. Same eyes, same softness. Grandpa, she said, hugging me like it actually mattered. You came. Of course I came. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I handed her the bouquet. White lilies. Virginia's touch. Ayla's eyes lit up. They're beautiful. Then Merritt's voice came slicing through from inside. Is Daddy here? I watched her come down the hallway in a sleek black dress and $300 shoes. She gave me a kiss on the cheek like I was a visiting tax advisor. You're just in time. Everyone's already gathered. I followed her into the living room where Fletcher was already holding court with two business guys. I recognized their smug smiles, same ones who barely shook my hand the last time. Fletcher turned, stretched out his arm. Ah, Richard, glad you could make it. Thanks for the invite, I said, my grip firm. I saw his flinch, still not used to that. He launched into introductions. Some VP, some investment strategist. All of them gave me that look, half polite, half dismissive. You work in catering, right? One of them asked. Something like that, I replied. Richard's a cook, Fletcher added with a smirk. Has a little place by the river, what's it called again? The old wharf, I said, watching him pretend to remember. Fletcher laughed and turned back to his buddies. You should try Blue Harbor sometime. Now that's a real restaurant. Oh, I've tried Blue Harbor. I know their suppliers, I know their numbers, I know they're bleeding cash. But I kept my mouth shut. Merritt leaned in, guiding me to my seat, at the far end of the table, of course, away from Ayla, away from the conversation. Thought you'd be more comfortable here, she said. Very thoughtful, I replied, smiling just enough to unsettle her. I sat down and waited, wondering what the night had in store. Dinner started like I expected, me at the far end of the table, close enough to see the action, but far enough that no one had to talk to me. The guests were polished, well-dressed, and loud in all the right ways. Conversations about business trips, real estate, and the new golf club in Hot Springs floated through the air like perfume. I just kept eating. The food was fine, good ingredients, nice presentation, but it had no soul. That's what you get when you buy everything from catalogs and leave the kitchen to a hired crew. It was the kind of meal Merritt loved, elegant and hollow. Fletcher eventually stood up, glass in hand, flashing his white teeth. I'd like to propose a toast to our beautiful daughter, he said, pausing for applause. Ayla, you've made us proud. Your achievements in marketing are already making waves, and you're only getting started. Everyone clapped. I sipped my wine. And, he added, puffing his chest, in honor of Ayla's birthday and my own recent promotion, we're taking the whole family out this weekend to Blue Harbor. More clapping, a few approving nods. Then Fletcher dropped the bomb. And the day after, we're dining at the Old Wharf restaurant, supposed to be one of the best in town. I nearly choked on my drink. Merritt didn't even flinch. She had no clue. They say the food's good, Fletcher continued, glancing my way with that smug little smirk. But it's not quite Blue Harbor. One of the women at the table, Pierce's wife, I think, raised her brow. Didn't their chef win some award last year? He did, I replied, keeping my voice even. Named best in Arkansas. Were you there, Richard? Merritt asked, sounding genuinely surprised. Sometimes, I said with a shrug. I stop in once in a while. She blinked. I didn't think you could afford that place. I didn't say I eat there, I smiled. It just said I go in sometimes. That drew a few chuckles from around the table. Fletcher leaned back, clearly enjoying the joke. I let it pass. When dessert arrived, I slipped Ayla the brooch, waited until the room was buzzing with conversation, and leaned toward her. This belonged to your great-grandmother, I said quietly, placing the velvet box in her hand. Virginia wanted you to have it. Ayla opened the box and gasped. It's beautiful, she whispered, tracing the delicate silver petals. Thank you, Grandpa. What's that? Merritt asked, suddenly appearing beside us like a hawk spotting movement. It's a brooch, Ayla answered. A family heirloom. Merritt plucked it from Ayla's hand and turned it over. Looks cheap, she said. Probably fake pearls. And tarnished. They're real, I said firmly. And silver can be cleaned. Papa, she muttered under her breath, lowering her voice. Ayla's not into antiques. She's modern. She's not going to wear something like this. I like it, Ayla said, taking it back. It's unique. And it has history. Merritt's jaw tightened. Well, don't expect to wear it to anything formal. It's a bit old-fashioned. I'll wear it whenever I want, Ayla said, her voice clear. I saw something in her then, a spark, a backbone that neither of her parents had managed to smother. Before Merritt could say more, Fletcher clinked his glass again. Time for cake, he announced. Ayla moved to the center of the table. I stayed in my seat. Nobody said anything, and that was fine. I'd made my gesture. Ayla had accepted it. That was enough. After the cake, I got up quietly and walked over to her. She was chatting with a young man, her boyfriend probably. I didn't interrupt, just leaned in and said, I'm heading out. Gotta be up early. She turned and gave me a hug. Thank you for coming, and for the brooch. I'll treasure it. You do that, I said, brushing her hair gently behind her ear, and call me sometime. I will, she promised. Whether she would or not, I didn't know. But I believed she meant it in that moment. I stepped outside, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. Merritt didn't bother to walk me out, Fletcher neither. I didn't expect it, but still. Ayla came to the door, though, gave me another hug, and said she'd call. Maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. Either way, I'd made my point. I handed her something else, too, quietly, an envelope with a check. She didn't know it, but that trust fund I'd set up for her just got a major boost. My name wouldn't be on it. That's not why I did it. As I drove home, their laughter followed me down the block. Merritt's house still glowed behind me, all full of guests and noise. I was a ghost again, like always. But this time, something in me had shifted, something sharp and awake. The next morning, Old Wharf was humming by 6:30. Rowan was pacing in the kitchen, flipping through his prep list like it held the secrets of the universe. Fish delivery's late, he said, wiping sweat off his forehead. We got that big reservation tonight, and Marco always has extra catch, I said, already grabbing my phone. Send Jason to the market. Tell him to ask for the red snapper if it's still alive and twitching. Rowan looked up. You're taking this night pretty seriously. I just nodded. He didn't ask why. That's what I like about him. Hey, I added, is the Hayes reservation still confirmed? Yeah, he said, double-checking. Table for 6, 8 p.m. Table 9, center of the room. Good, I said. Make sure Lori puts the best wine on that table, and let the team know I'll be out in the lounge tonight. That got Rowan's attention. You're going to be out front? I nodded again. He just smiled and shook his head. Whatever you say, Mr. A. All day I could feel the anticipation building. I wasn't nervous, just ready. Every inch of that restaurant was polished by sundown, every napkin folded like origami, every glass sparkling like crystal. I went upstairs, showered, and pulled out the only expensive suit I owned, a dark blue tailored one Virginia made me buy years ago. "You're a restaurant owner," she'd said. "Dress like one." I hadn't worn it in nearly a decade. It still fit. When I came back downstairs, Laurie raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Endicott," she said with a smirk. "Looking sharp." "Thank you," I said, adjusting my cufflinks. "Let me know when the Hayes party arrives." "Of course." At 8 sharp, the front doors opened, and there they were, Merritt and Fletcher, dressed to impress, flanked by 2 other couples in their orbit. I recognized the smug ones from Ayla's party. All of them strutted through like they owned the place. Fletcher had that same pompous air, like he was the mayor of a town he'd just bought. Laurie led them to table 9, center of the floor, perfect view of the river, and visible to every other guest in the house. Fletcher puffed out his chest as he took his seat. Merritt scanned the room, probably noting the silverware brand and calculating how much the meal would cost. She still had no clue. Brandon, one of our best waiters, approached with menus and the wine list. Fletcher launched into a whole performance, waving his hands and pretending to understand vintages. His guests nodded like they were in the presence of a sommelier king. I waited. Let them get comfortable. Let them order. Let them believe they were in a place they were too good for. Then, when the appetizers were nearly done and the mains were hitting the table, I adjusted my tie and stepped out of the kitchen. No rush, no theatrics. Just a quiet walk through my own restaurant toward the table of people who thought I didn't belong there. I stood behind them for a second, watching. "Good evening," I said. Merritt froze mid-bite. Fletcher looked up, his smile faltering. "What are you doing here?" Merritt asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I smiled. "Just wanted to say hello." The color drained from Merritt's face so fast I thought she might faint. Her fork hung mid-air, her mouth open just enough to make her look like a statue, frozen in embarrassment. Fletcher blinked like he couldn't process what was happening. He tried for a smile, but it came out more like a twitch. "Richard," he said, adjusting his napkin like it gave him control of the room. "What a surprise." "Didn't expect to run into you here," I said calmly, keeping my tone polite, almost casual. "I noticed your name on the reservation list and figured I'd stop by." Merritt stood suddenly, her chair scraping back hard. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" I followed her to the hallway near the restrooms, away from the dining floor, but not far enough that I couldn't still hear the clinking of silverware and murmured conversations behind us. Her heels clicked like gunshots on the tile. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "I'm having dinner," I said. "Lovely restaurant, isn't it?" "You can't afford this place," she snapped. This isn't your kind of place." I raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly is my kind of place, Merritt?" She looked away, biting her lip. "I mean, come on, Dad. You drive a 15-year-old Toyota. You live above some tiny restaurant. You're not supposed to be here." "I'm not supposed to be here," I repeated. "That's what this is about?" "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly, her voice trembling now. "It's just, you don't belong here tonight. You're making it awkward. Our guests, Fletcher's co-workers, they don't know." "They don't know what?" I asked. "That your father's a cook? That you're embarrassed by the man who paid for your college without you ever knowing it?" She stiffened. "That's not fair, isn't it? Look, can you please just leave quietly? I'll explain something to Fletcher. Just say you were passing through or something. We'll handle it. You want me to sneak out of my own restaurant so you don't have to explain who I am?" Her eyes widened. "You're what?" I paused. Let the silence stretch just enough. Then I leaned in slightly. "Merritt, this restaurant, Old Wharf, I own it. I have owned it for 26 years. Every single chair, plate, fork, and brick belongs to me." She blinked, then blinked again. "You're joking." "I'm not." "You're a cook. You've always said you're just a cook." And I am. A cook who happens to own one of the highest-rated restaurants in the region. She took a step back like I'd struck her. "Why didn't you ever say anything? Would it have mattered? You've made it clear for years what you think of me." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "I think I'll head back out now," I said, straightening my tie. "Wouldn't want your guests wondering where you ran off to." I walked past her, back to the dining room. Fletcher was mid-laugh with one of his buddies when he saw me returning. His face tightened. "Sorry about that," I said, stepping beside their table again. "Just wanted to say a quick hello." Fletcher forced another smile. "No problem at all." I looked around the table. "Hope you're all enjoying your evening. Means a lot to us." "Us?" one of the guests asked, confused. "Yes," I said. "I'm the owner here." It was like someone had unplugged the room, dead quiet for 2 seconds, maybe 3. Fletcher's mouth opened, then shut. Merritt came up behind me, pale as ash. "Dad," she whispered. I nodded. "Have a lovely meal, everyone. It's on the house." Then I walked away without looking back. I walked straight back to my office, my blood steady, my hands calm. But something heavy sat in my chest. Not regret, not guilt. Just the weight of finally saying what needed to be said. I closed the door behind me and sat down at my desk, letting the silence fill the room. On the monitor above my shelf, the security camera feed showed Table 9 in real time. Merritt had returned to her seat. Fletcher looked stunned. The others tried to act like nothing happened, but their stiff shoulders and awkward glances gave them away. No one laughed now. No one poured more wine. A knock came on the intercom. "Mr. Endicott," Laurie's voice crackled. "We've got a situation." "I know," I said. "I caused it." She hesitated. "What do you want me to do about their table?" "Serve them like anyone else, but when the check comes, bring it to me." "Copy that." I turned back to the monitor. Brandon, as smooth as ever, moved through the room with his usual grace, offering dessert menus, pouring wine. The guests tried to play it cool, but their faces were tight. Fletcher had that cornered look, like a dog who thought the backyard was his until the fence came down. An hour later, their meal was over. Brandon approached with the leather billfold. Fletcher reached for it automatically, but Brandon turned toward Merritt instead. "Madam, Mr. Endicott asked me to inform you. The bill is paid." I saw her mouth form the words before the mic picked them up. "Mr. Endicott?" "Yes, ma'am," Brandon said. "Mr. Richard Endicott, the owner of Old Wharf." Fletcher dropped his fork. His guests turned in unison. Merritt froze, then slowly looked around the restaurant like it had suddenly changed shape. "That can't be right," Fletcher muttered. "Birch is a cook. He's not—" "There's no mistake," Laurie chimed in, having approached the table. "Mr. Endicott is the founder and sole owner. 2 Michelin stars, multiple national awards." I could see Fletcher's face flush. One of his guests leaned over and whispered something. Merritt looked like she'd swallowed glass. "Where is he?" she asked. "In his office, ma'am." Laurie turned toward the hallway. I already knew what was coming. A minute later, there was a knock. I straightened in my chair. "Come in," I said. Laurie opened the door, held it, and Merritt stepped inside. Thus alone. She looked around slowly, taking in the leather chairs, the antique shelves, the framed photographs of awards and write-ups. Her gaze stopped on a picture of Virginia and me at the ribbon cutting 26 years ago. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was shaky. "All this time," I stood up. "Yes." "You own it?" "I do." She sat down without being asked, her eyes still scanning the room. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" I shrugged. "Did you ever ask?" She looked away. "That's not fair." "It's honest." She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. After a moment, she tried again. "All these years, you let us think you were barely scraping by. You let us talk down to you. And you never questioned it. But why? Why would you hide it? Because I wanted to see who you'd be when you thought I had nothing." She flinched. "Dad," I cut her off. Don't try to spin it. You and Fletcher have spent years looking through me, tolerating me. Not once have you treated me with respect unless you thought there was something to gain." She went quiet again. Outside the door, I could hear the muffled sounds of chairs moving, guests preparing to leave. Merritt glanced at the door. "I didn't come in here to argue," she said finally. "I just needed to understand. Now you do." Silence settled between us like dust in a room untouched. "What now?" she asked. I looked her in the eye. "That's up to you." Merritt didn't say anything right away. She just sat there, hands folded, staring down at her lap like she was trying to remember how to talk to me as a person. Not as the poor old cook she barely tolerated, but as the man who'd built everything around her without ever needing her approval. I didn't mean to treat you like, she trailed off, like a nobody, I finished for her. She winced. I didn't think you were a nobody. I just thought, you thought I was beneath you, I said. Let's not waste time pretending otherwise. She shook her head, lips tight. No, I didn't. I didn't know what to think. You always kept everything so quiet, so private. And you never asked, I repeated. You were too busy chasing Fletcher's world, too busy pretending you came from something better than what Virginia and I gave you. She looked up at that. Her eyes were watery now, but not enough to make me believe it was remorse, maybe confusion, maybe the beginning of it. You gave me everything, she said softly, and I never even realized. No, I said. You didn't want to realize. There's a difference. Another pause. Her voice cracked this time. So what happens now? You just cut us off? I didn't say that, I replied, but I'm not going to pretend any longer. I'm not going to play the old fool while you and Fletcher throw your wine-soaked dinner parties. She straightened a little. Fletcher didn't know either. I know, I said, but that doesn't mean he gets a clean slate. He's treated me like dirt since the day you introduced him to me. He thought you were a simple man, she said, and instantly regretted it. I am a simple man, I snapped. I just happen to own a multi-million-dollar business. You think that makes me someone else? No, Merritt. I'm still the man who stayed up baking cookies with you when you had nightmares, the man who drove you to every recital, even when I worked 3 jobs. You didn't want that man. You wanted status. You wanted the version of a father you could show off. She bit her lip, and I saw her finally look at me. Really look. Not as a problem, not as a burden. Just as a man who'd spent a lifetime giving without asking anything in return. I want to fix this, she whispered. You can't fix the past, but you can stop adding to it. She nodded slowly. And what about Fletcher? What about him? Can you forgive him? I laughed, not bitterly, just honestly. Forgiveness ain't the problem. Trust is. Another knock at the door. Laurie poked her head in. Mr. Endicott, the rest of the party's waiting in the lobby. Should I call them a cab? Yes, I said, eyes still on Merritt. Tell them their evening's over. Laurie nodded and shut the door. Merritt stood, a little shaky now. Do you want me to tell them? No, I said. Let Fletcher sit there and stew in it. Let him explain it to his guests, how the man he's mocked for years turned out to be the one holding the keys to the castle. She looked like she wanted to argue, but then stopped herself. She just nodded. At the door she paused and turned around. Dad, thank you. For everything. Even when I didn't deserve it. I nodded once. When she left, the silence came back like an old friend. I sat down and looked around my office. Virginia's picture was still on the shelf, that same soft smile on her face. I whispered under my breath, I kept my promise, but I did it my way. The next 2 days I didn't answer my phone. Merritt called again and again, first soft, then urgent, then annoyed. The voicemails shifted in tone like a barometer. Dad, can we talk? Turned into, you can't just ignore us, and eventually, Fletcher thinks you're being childish. That last one made me laugh out loud. Childish, after everything? I let the messages pile up. I wasn't ready to hear any more apologies that sounded like negotiations. I wasn't looking for guilt. I was looking for honesty. And that's something they still hadn't figured out how to give. Work helped. We were in the middle of summer rush. Tourists packed the Riverwalk, and Old Wharf was running hot. I spent more time in the kitchen than I had in years, tasting sauces, checking orders, laughing with Rowan about how our freezer door still stuck on humid days. That restaurant had held me together more times than I could count. It was the one place I didn't have to explain who I was. On the 3rd day after the dinner, Rowan knocked on my office door, eyebrows raised. There's a girl asking for you, he said. Says she's your granddaughter. My stomach dropped. Ayla? He nodded. Didn't come through the front. Said she didn't want to make a scene. I stood up fast, smoothing my apron. Send her in. A few seconds later, she stepped inside, dressed in jeans and a plain t-shirt, her hair tied back. No jewelry, no makeup. Just her. She looked smaller than she had at the birthday party, like someone who'd been holding her breath for too long. "Hey, Grandpa," she said softly. "Ayla." I opened my arms and she walked straight into them. That hug, tight, shaky, real, meant more to me than anything Merritt had said in 10 years. "I'm sorry," she whispered into my shoulder. "You got nothing to be sorry for," I said, pulling back to look at her. She wiped her eyes. "Yes, I do. I was blind. I let them paint you like some side character in their world. I should have known better." "You only knew what they told you," I said. "What matters is that you came." She sat across from me, glancing around the office. "I had no idea this was yours. All of it. The restaurant, the apartment, the whole empire." "Not an empire," I smiled. "Just a place I built so I could sleep at night knowing I made something that mattered." She nodded, fiddling with the strap of her bag. "They're freaking out. Mom and Dad. They keep saying you humiliated them, but all I can think is, I wish I'd known sooner." I leaned back. "They don't care that they were wrong. They care that someone saw it." "That's exactly what I realized," she said, her voice suddenly sharper. "They're not ashamed of how they treated you. They're mad. They look like fools." I saw something different in her eyes then. Not the polished girl from the birthday party, but someone older, stronger, and a little wiser. Virginia would have been proud of her in that moment. "I want to work here," Ayla blurted out. "I know I've never done anything like this, but I'm good at social media and branding," and I held up a hand. "Slow down. You serious?" "Dead serious. I want to be part of something real. Something built, not handed over through dinner parties and favors." I didn't say yes, not yet. But I saw Virginia's conviction in her, and that was enough for now. "You bring me your resume," I said, grinning. "We'll talk." She stood, hesitated, then walked over and kissed me on the cheek. "Thanks for letting me in the back door." "Any door in this place is open to you," I said. "Always." As she left, I noticed something glinting on her blouse. The silver lily brooch, cleaned, polished, worn proudly. Ayla came back 2 days later with a resume, a small leather notebook, and a spark in her eye I hadn't seen before. She didn't come through the back this time, walked right through the front door like she belonged. Lori gave her a curious look but smiled. "Your granddaughter?" she asked as Ayla passed. I nodded. "She's ready." We sat in my office again, but this time the air felt different. Ayla was focused, energized, nervous, but determined. She opened her notebook like she was pitching a startup to investors. "Okay," she began, flipping to the first page. "Your website needs a redesign. It's 5 years out of date, and the mobile version loads too slow. You've got no real presence on Instagram. Facebook's alive, but it's not driving traffic. TikTok, nothing. You've got the most beautiful plating in town, and nobody's posting it." I let her finish. She had charts, mock-ups, even a color palette idea based on the river at sunset. She'd stayed up late working on this. It wasn't just a visit. It was a declaration. "You put some work into this," I said. "I meant what I said. I don't want a favor. I want a job." I studied her a moment. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't here to squeeze me like her parents. She was showing me who she really was. "You'd be reporting to Rowan," I said. "You okay with that?" "Absolutely," she said. "I'm not here to be the boss's granddaughter. I'm here to prove myself." I sat back in my chair, taking a long look at her. "Okay. You're hired. Part-time, you'll work your way up like everyone else." Ayla's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Thank you. You won't regret it." "I know I won't," I said, smiling. She started the following Monday. First week, she was quiet, observant. Stayed out of the kitchen, mostly stuck to the office and the floor, taking photos, learning the ropes, watching the crowd. She didn't ask for special treatment, didn't tell a soul she was my granddaughter, just showed up and did the work. And by Friday, our Instagram was already pushing close to 1,000 new followers. Rowan even asked me, "You sure she's not moonlighting as a digital wizard?" "She's got the blood," I said. "Virginia would have loved this." Merritt didn't know, neither did Fletcher. I figured I'd let Ayla handle that on her own time. She hadn't brought it up, and I wasn't going to force it. The two of them had been quiet since the dinner. No more calls, no more messages. It was like they were waiting to see if I'd cool down or forget the whole thing ever happened. But I hadn't cooled down, and I sure as hell hadn't forgotten. That Sunday morning, Ayla showed up early. She had coffee from the corner place and a pastry bag in her hand. "Peace offering," she said, placing the cinnamon roll on my desk. "You starting early or just bribing the boss?" I asked. "Both," she grinned. Then she grew serious. "I told them." I set down my cup. "Your parents?" She nodded. "Last night. I told them I'm working here, that I'm learning everything from scratch, that I'm not doing it to impress anyone. I'm doing it because I want to." I studied her face. There was no fear, just resolve. "How'd they take it?" She exhaled. "About like you'd expect. Mom tried to guilt me, said I was taking sides. Fletcher said I was throwing away my degree." "And what did you say?" "I told them I'm finally learning something worth knowing, and that if they want to understand it, they can come see for themselves." I smiled, proud in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Didn't think you had that in you." "Neither did I," she said. "But I'm done pretending." Ayla's confidence didn't fade after that talk with her parents. It sharpened. She started showing up earlier, staying later, asking Rowan questions about suppliers, sourcing, prep schedules. One afternoon I found her shadowing Lori at the hostess stand, watching how walk-ins were handled, how reservations were juggled on a busy night. She was building her knowledge from the ground up. I didn't push her. I just watched, observed like I always do. She never asked for shortcuts, never used my name to get ahead. And the staff noticed. Respect doesn't come with blood, it comes with sweat, and she was earning it. The next Saturday we had a wedding party booked, a big one, 65 guests, full-course dinner, cake delivery, custom menu. Everything had to be perfect. Rowan was in the kitchen orchestrating like a general. I was overseeing the floor, making sure the timeline held. Ayla, without being asked, created a step-by-step visual schedule on the office whiteboard, complete with time blocks. Who was assigned to what and when. Lori took one look and said, "I think we just got ourselves a manager." I didn't say anything, but I felt it in my chest. Pride, and something else I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Just after service, I was sitting out back near the delivery ramp catching my breath, when Ayla walked up with 2 cold lemonades. "I think Rowan's about ready to cry," she said, handing me one. "He's not used to weddings going smooth." She laughed. "You guys pull this off every week. It's like a dance." I nodded, sipping. That's the part people never see. The rhythm. They think food just shows up looking pretty. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us watching the night settle over the river. The cicadas were loud. The scent of rosemary and garlic still lingered in the air. Then Ayla turned to me. "They want to come." I didn't have to ask who. "Both of them?" "Yeah," she said. "Mom texted this morning. She asked if they could come in next weekend. No guests. Just dinner." "And what do you think?" She shrugged. "I think they need to see it. Not just the food or the dining room. I think they need to see who you really are, what you built. I think it scares them." I raised an eyebrow. "Scares them?" "They spent their whole lives trying to climb ladders," she said, "trying to be seen. And the man they ignored turned out to be standing on top of one all along, his own." I looked out over the water. Let the words settle. "I don't need their apology." "I know," she said, "but I think maybe they need to give it for their own sake." I sighed, rubbed the bridge of my nose. "I'm not interested in grand gestures. I'm not putting on a show for anyone." "I wouldn't ask you to," Ayla said, "but you should hear them out. Not for them. For you. You've already made your point. Now maybe just let them sit in it." She had a way of talking that reminded me more and more of Virginia, direct, but never harsh, honest, but not cruel. "Fine," I said. "Next weekend. They can come. But I'm not clearing my schedule. They eat like everyone else." She smiled. "They wouldn't expect anything less." As she stood to go back inside, I called after her, "You wearing that brooch tonight?" She turned and tapped her chest. It was there, shining under the string lights. "Every shift," she said. "It's a reminder." "Of what?" "That I come from something solid," she said. "Not just smoke and mirrors." I didn't think much about the dinner until the day actually arrived. Merritt hadn't confirmed, but Ayla had assured me they were coming. No guests, no show, just the two of them. I kept my usual Saturday schedule, checked inventory, did a full walkthrough, then spent 2 hours in the kitchen testing a new wild mushroom reduction with Rowan. Business as usual, no speeches, no performances. But still, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something tighten in my chest around 6:45 p.m. when Lori came to the back and said, "They're here." I looked up from the prep table. Rowan caught my eye. "You want me to cover front of house?" "No," I said. "Let him see me exactly where I belong." He nodded once and went back to the scallops. I stayed behind the kitchen pass at first, just watching. Merritt and Fletcher were seated at table 4, intimate, near the fireplace. Not a flashy table. Ayla had picked it out on purpose. I could see Merritt scanning the room, clearly unsure where to look. Fletcher sat stiff, like the leather chair offended him. I finally stepped out around 7:15. Walked over calm and steady. Merritt stood up, nervous smile plastered across her face. "Hi, Dad," she said. "Evening," I replied. Fletcher gave a tight nod. "Richard." I didn't bother sitting. Just stood there for a second, letting the tension hang where it wanted. "You two ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" Merritt blinked. We were actually hoping we could talk for a minute. "I'm working," I said flat, "but I've got about 4 minutes. Go ahead." Her eyes flicked to Fletcher, then back to me. "We were wrong," she said, "about everything. About you. We judge you without ever really knowing the truth." I didn't say anything. Fletcher cleared his throat. "Look, Richard, I'll admit it. I underestimated you. I think we both did." "That's not the problem," I said. "The problem is, you didn't just underestimate me. You disrespected me. For years." Merritt looked down. "We know. And we're sorry." "Sorry's a start," I said. "But what are you sorry for?" She looked up, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, don't just throw the word out and hope it sticks. What exactly are you sorry for?" She took a breath. "For making assumptions, for keeping you at arm's length, for never letting Ayla really know you, for acting like you were less just because you didn't fit our world." Fletcher was quiet now, eyes fixed on his napkin. "You ever wonder why I never corrected you?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "To test us?" "No. Because I wanted to see if you could respect someone who didn't flaunt their worth. You failed that test." Merritt's hands twisted in her lap. "I don't know how to fix it." "I'm not asking you to fix it," I said. "I'm asking you to mean it and to stop pretending like love has a dress code." Silence. Finally, Fletcher looked up. "We'd like a second chance." "Then take it," I said, stepping back. "Be better to Ayla. Be better to people who don't wear a suit. That's how you make it right." I turned, ready to head back, but Merritt grabbed my arm gently. "Dad, thank you for not turning us away." I looked her in the eyes. "This isn't a movie, Merritt. I'm not doing this for a happy ending. I'm doing it because your daughter is worth it." Then I walked off, leaving them to their menus, their wine, and hopefully their conscience. Merritt and Fletcher stayed until dessert. They didn't cause a scene. They didn't ask for comp meals or favors. They just sat, ate, and looked uncomfortable in their own silence. And for once, I didn't try to rescue them from it. Let them sit with everything they never saw. What it took to build this place, what it meant to wear an apron instead of a title. They left without asking to see me again, and that was fine. They'd done what they came to do. I had no interest in pushing them further. Ayla came to my office after their table was cleared. She didn't say much at first, just sat down and looked at me. "Well?" I asked. "They listened," she said. "For once, they actually listened." "Good," I said. "They needed to." I think they'll change, she added, a little more hopeful. I gave a slow nod. Maybe, but even if they don't, you've already changed. She smiled at that. From that day on, Ayla was everywhere in the restaurant. Not just managing social media or events. She started talking to customers, walking the floor during rush, checking in with the kitchen when Rowan was slammed. She found a rhythm. She earned respect. And the thing that got me most, she never once acted like any of it was owed to her. One night, about 2 weeks later, we had a packed house, big anniversary table up front, a group of tech execs in the back corner. We were stretched thin. Lori called in sick, and one of our hosts no-showed. I stepped out to help with seating, and Ayla met me at the front in her usual black blouse, hair pulled back, brooch glinting like a badge of honor. "You need me on door tonight?" she asked. "You sure you're ready?" She nodded. "Try me." She worked that floor better than I'd ever seen. Warm smiles, calm under pressure, memorized the guest list by heart. When the reservation for Memphis showed up 20 minutes early, she had them seated and sipping drinks in less than 5. When a kid dropped his silverware and started crying, she knelt down, handed him a toy from our basket under the host stand, and got a smile in return. Parents left a $100 tip just for that. After the dinner rush, I called her into the back. "You know you ran that floor better than I did tonight," I said. She beamed. "I've got good teachers." "No," I said. You've got heart. That's different." She looked down, then up again, more serious now. "Grandpa, I've been thinking about something." "Go on." "I want to stay. I don't mean part-time. I mean, for real, long-term. This isn't just a job to me anymore. This feels like home." Those words hit me harder than I expected. After everything, after years of silence, distance, and disappointment, someone from my own blood wanted to carry it forward. "You're serious," I said. She nodded. "I want to learn everything, not just marketing, the books, the numbers, the supply chain, the wine list, all of it. I want to earn my place here." I leaned back in my chair, heart full in a way I hadn't felt in decades. "Well then," I said, "if you're ready to learn, I'm ready to teach." And just like that, something shifted. This place, Old Wharf, wasn't just mine anymore. It had a future, a name, a story that wouldn't end when I hung up my apron. Ayla looked around the office. "You ever think of expanding?" I smiled. "Let's get you through a year first, rookie." She laughed. "Fair." The next few weeks moved like clockwork. Ayla kept showing up early, staying late, diving into every corner of the business. I started teaching her the books, how inventory matched with sales, how margins worked, how to spot a vendor trying to squeeze you on pricing. She asked sharp questions, took notes like a college student cramming for finals. Rowan noticed it too. "She's got the right instincts," he said one night after close, wiping down the cutting board. "Doesn't flinch under pressure. You can't teach that." "I know," I said. "She reminds me of someone." He smirked. "You?" "No," I said, tapping the photo of Virginia I'd pinned beside the clock-in terminal. "Her." Rowan just nodded. "Makes sense." But with every step forward Ayla took, Merritt got quieter. She stopped calling altogether. No surprise visits, no check-ins. It was like watching someone retreat into the fog. I wasn't chasing her, though. Not this time. If she wanted to find her way back, she'd have to walk through the truth to do it. Then one Monday afternoon, Ayla walked into my office, holding a thin envelope. "I wasn't sure if I should show you this," she said. I looked up. "What is it?" "It's from Mom." I took it slowly. No name on the outside, just my address written in her handwriting, tight, small, anxious. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No opening greeting. Just a few lines. I see it now, all of it. "I understand why you stayed quiet, why you waited. I'm sorry it took losing your voice in my life to finally hear it. I hope it's not too late to learn from what you built, not just the restaurant, but the man you still are. M." I folded it and set it down on the desk. I didn't say anything at first. "She left it with me," Ayla said quietly. "Didn't want to text, didn't want to call." "She's not good with confrontation," I said. "She's scared," I nodded, "of herself more than me." You gonna call her back? I thought about it. Not yet. Ayla didn't push. She just sat down and started organizing receipts like she always did. That night I sat in my apartment above the restaurant with the window open. Same breeze off the river. Same scent of rosemary drifting up from the kitchen vents. I took out the letter again and read it a second time. It wasn't everything, but it was something. I thought about the years Virginia and I spent trying to raise Merritt right, how we always made sure she had more than we did growing up. Somewhere along the line, she learned to crave comfort but forgot where it came from. Maybe this was her first step back. That weekend, Ayla ran her first solo event, a charity brunch for a local foster care center. She coordinated it top to bottom: menu, decor, seating, donations. Lori helped, but only when asked. Rowan gave her space. I stayed in the background like she asked me to. She stood at the front of the room and spoke about legacy, community, and dignity. Her voice didn't shake once. People clapped. People cried. A food critic who'd ignored us for years asked for an interview. Ayla declined. "We're not selling a story," she told him. "We're living one." That night, after the crowd left and the chairs were stacked, she sat across from me at our usual table near the bar. "I think I want to take a culinary course," she said. "Not to be a chef, just to know more." "You got my blessing," I said, "and the business will cover it." She smiled, then reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thank you for letting me prove myself." "You didn't prove yourself to me," I said. "You proved yourself to you." It was a Tuesday morning when Merritt finally showed up again, not with Fletcher, not dressed to impress, just herself in jeans and a cardigan, holding a paper bag from the bakery down the street. Lori buzzed my office. "Your daughter's here," she said, voice tight. "Alone." I hesitated, then said, "Send her in." Merritt stepped in quietly, eyes scanning the office like it might bite her. She set the bag on my desk and stood there, hands clasped like a schoolgirl waiting for judgment. "Morning," I said. "Hi, Dad," she replied. "I brought you a cranberry scone. Your favorite, I think." "It is," I said, not touching the bag. She nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm not here to explain again or to ask for anything. I wanted to sit across from you and say thank you." "For what?" "For giving Ayla what I couldn't. For showing her how to be strong without stepping on anyone to get there." I looked her in the eye. "That's not mine to take credit for. Ayla's her own woman. She made her own choices." "Yeah," Merritt said, her voice soft. "But she made them with your backbone." She finally sat down, looked around the office again, slower this time. "I used to think success meant big offices and boardrooms and catered lunches," she continued. "Fletcher and I, hell, we built our entire image on that lie. But watching Ayla work here, it's different. She glows. You gave her something real." "She earned it," I said. "I know." She paused. "And I didn't." Silence stretched between us. "You remember that time you drove me to the dance and I forgot you were even there?" she asked suddenly. "I walked out with my friends like you were the hired help." "I remember," I said. "You didn't look back once." "I've thought about that more times than I can count," she whispered. "Mom was still alive. You were hanging on by a thread. And I made you feel invisible." "You didn't make me feel anything, Merritt." "I let it happen. I let you write your version of me because I thought you'd figure it out eventually." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't deserve the chances you gave me." "Maybe not," I said, "but I gave them anyway." She looked down. "I'm trying now. I don't know how to rebuild all of it, but I want to try." "And Fletcher?" "We're in a weird place," she admitted. "He doesn't understand why this matters so much to me. He thinks legacy is something you leave in your will." "That's because he's never built anything with his hands," I said. "Only climbed what others built before him." She gave a small, sad smile. "I think that's why he's afraid of you." "I'm not here to scare him," I said. "I'm here to live out what's left of my life with dignity." "You're doing more than that," she said. "You're showing all of us what we missed while chasing things that never mattered." I leaned back, finally opening the bag. The scone smelled fresh, still warm. You want to sit in on payroll with Ayla later? I asked. Merritt blinked. You're serious? If you want to learn the truth about how this place runs, you can't just eat the food. You have to see what it costs. She nodded slowly. I'd like that. I took a bite of the scone. Not bad, I said. Still not as good as Virginia's. She laughed, wiping her cheek. Nothing ever will be. We sat there in silence, not as father and daughter locked in a war of pride, but two people who had finally stopped pretending. Merritt started coming in once a week after that. No makeup, no blazer, no attitude. She sat next to Ayla during payroll, asked questions, took notes. She didn't pretend to understand everything, but she didn't act entitled either. She was trying, really trying. And that meant more to me than any apology ever could. Ayla kept rising. She started training under Rowan a few nights a week, not as a chef, but to understand flow, pressure, timing. She ran the front of house like a natural now. Customers recognized her. Some even asked if she was the granddaughter. She never corrected them. She'd just smile and say, I'm learning from the best. We reached the fall season and the bookings stacked up. Engagement parties, birthdays, retirement dinners. The calendar filled faster than it ever had. One night, after a local write-up named us the most authentic culinary experience in the tri-state area, a major hospitality group sent someone in quietly. Ayla caught it before I did. They're scouting, she told me, probably thinking expansion. I grunted. They can scout all they want. This place isn't going corporate. She smirked. That's what I told them. Good girl. Then out of nowhere, Fletcher showed up one afternoon. No warning, no appointment. He walked in with his usual slick shoes, holding a gift box under one arm and a stiff smile on his face. I'd like a word, he said to me, standing just inside my office door. I looked up. You lost? He chuckled dryly. You're not going to make this easy, are you? You came here for easy? He stepped in and placed the box on my desk. It's bourbon. From the reserve you used to drink. Merritt said you haven't bought it in years. I stopped drinking it when it started reminding me of things I didn't like. He nodded, hands in pockets now. I know I've been a bastard. I've looked down my nose at you for so long I forgot to check what was under my own feet. I didn't say anything. You were right, he said finally, about everything. You built something with grit. I just wore expensive shoes and assumed that meant I was standing taller. I let the silence stretch. You didn't have to raise Merritt the way you did, he continued. After Virginia passed, you could have collapsed, but you didn't. You showed up, every day. Still, I didn't speak. I won't ask for your forgiveness, he said. I know I haven't earned it, but I will say this. I'm proud my daughter's learning from you. And if you'll allow it, I'd like to keep showing up, quietly, no titles, just learning. I studied him for a long moment. No smugness this time, no spin, just a man humbled by the reality he couldn't buy his way into. You clean dishes? He blinked. What? Dish pit, I said, back corner. It's how everyone starts around here. He gave a short laugh, then looked at me like he was checking to see if I was joking. I wasn't. Then slowly, he nodded. If that's what it takes. I stood and pointed to the kitchen. Clock in. Rowan will show you where the gloves are. He left the bourbon behind and walked out without another word. Ayla appeared a minute later, breathless. Did that really just happen? Yep, I said. Let's see how long he lasts in front of a sink. She laughed, full and honest, the kind that fills a room. Later that night, I stood at the front of the restaurant watching the place I'd built move like a living thing. Merritt seated guests. Ayla coordinated a birthday, and Fletcher, my God, was elbow deep in suds. Virginia would have loved this.